So it is lovely to see you again, Mitch. I obviously go way back with you. I've interviewed Pentatonix, I don't even know how many times, and I've interviewed Superfruit once, and
Hmm.
I've actually interviewed you once. I guess it was 4 years ago at this point about
Whoa.
your electro pop project, Messer,
Yeah.
which is like a whole other thing if people
Yeah.
don't only know you from Pentatonix or from Superfruit. So I'm super into it. It's up my alley. I actually
Thanks.
wore this shirt for you because it's kind of like a combination of pop and goth. It's like a goth
Yes.
Madonna shirt.
I love
Um,
it.
so yeah, I kind of thought it was on brand because you straddle kind of those worlds.
Yeah.
So yeah, 4 years ago you released Roses, and I think it was if people even realized it was you, it would have been a surprise. Um, but I feel like with that album, maybe you were hiding. Tell me if I'm wrong, that you
Hmm.
were maybe hiding more of who you were, besides the fact that obviously it's not under your name. Like you were wearing like a lot of kind of wigs and stuff that
Hmm.
hid you. So like I'm curious about the evolution about Messer since then.
Yeah.
Crazy, it's been almost 4 years now.
I know time has really flown in the strangest of ways. But you're kind of right on the money about that. I think I wanted to. Yeah, I was really scared to kind of take this leap, and so I think I was trying to do it in a way that was kind of like a soft launch of the next step because I was like kind of unsure, still finding my footing, trying to figure out the sound, and I was also in a really weird place with my vocals too because they're so present in the world of pentatonics, and I just didn't I wanted to show that the vocals were equally as important as the music behind them.
Mm,
So it sort of became more washy on that first record. And yeah, I had the long wig, and I think more importantly, I wanted to make a statement that this was something completely different than what I had established with the band.
completely different. I
Yeah.
mean, besides that, obviously there's instrumentation in it, which is in itself a different thing. Like it's dark, very it's sexy. I don't know what genre you would call it, like dark wave, witch house,
Hmm.
electro pop, I actually hear some electro clash in it.
I was really big into Electroclash when I was a teenager, so I think there's a lot of shades of that in my music.
What electro clash? It was such a short-lived genre, but for me it
Yeah,
was very important. And there was a weird backlash to it that I never understood. Fisher Spooner were like the biggest one, but like
my
what elect
favorite.
yeah, they were great. What electro clash artists were you into?
Fisher Spooner was a big one. Ladytron. Oh my gosh, who else? Peaches. Um, all the greats. There were so many and so many subgenres of Electroclash too. People drew in for Tiga.
Mm.
Um,
It was
yeah,
also a very queer, like especially if you talk about Fisher
totally.
Spooner and Peaches, of course, but it was
Yeah.
like I almost thought of the backlash that it got. I think it was because of the UK press, but it was almost like what happened with disco. Like people just,
Mm,
but it was like a very like queer and just like diverse scene at the time.
yeah.
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 So anyway, to go back to Messer, what made you want to do this project besides the fact that you just like this music? Because it started, how many year, how when did Pentatonic start? When did you win the sing off? Because I can't even remember.
Yeah, that was 2011 is when we won. So 14 years ago.
So Messer, at least when you put out rep music, when you put out Roses, the new EP Cuts is coming out now. But when
Mhm.
Roses came out, it's 10 years into Pentatonix, like professional career. Like
Yeah,
since so what made you want to do it? Had it been something you wanted to do for a long time?
I had been wanting to do it for a long time. Yeah, and I was afforded, I don't want to say the gift of time because COVID obviously was a very devastating time in the world's life. Um, we all were stuck in our homes and we had a lot of time to kind of reevaluate. And that's exactly what I did. And, I had time to listen to more music and to ingest some more art and find some inspiration. And, I just had all this time. I was like, okay, I think now is as good a time as any. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to start writing and start making music and see, where it takes me. And it was really scary. But it was just important for me to take this leap because pentatonics, is it's a big part of my identity, and my identity is a big part of it. Um, but of course, it is a collaborative process, and I have to kind of run my ideas by four other people. We all do. And I wanted to experiment with another environment where I could just, be my own boss and choose my own ideas and curate my own vocals. And yeah, it's not something I had ever done before.
When I talk about how sort of at the beginning, because like I said, the visuals are different from now. Like I saw the not yet visualizer, and it's like there's no doubt who it is. If people know
Yeah.
who you are, they will recognize you. But with the visuals and the different names that were for, obviously I'm a big Pentatonix fan. I have been since the sing off.
Thank you.
But there are probably some people, and I don't mean this in any shady way, that have a certain perception. If they think it's like, I don't know, square or very mainstream or
Hmm.
very clean cut or very like
Yeah.
pop, and maybe some people who would like the kind of music Messer does wouldn't be open-minded to it if they knew it was you or whatever. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm wondering if that was a concern for you that like people would be like the Pentatonix guy, like
Yeah.
no, no, and wouldn't give you a chance.
That was a concern of mine too. Yeah. And I understand that concern completely. If you're a big fan of someone and you're used to seeing them in a certain light, in a certain creative environment, you're like, no, don't do this. I'm used to this, and this is what makes me happy. Make more of this.
Yeah, you're right. The Pentatonix fans also, I'm talking about people who aren't Pentatonix fans, but maybe the Pentatonix.
Ah,
Well, there's both. There's people who would like not be into that, who'd be like, I'm
mm,
not going to take this seriously
yeah,
because he comes from a reality show or he's a YouTube star or he's a
sure.
acapella star, whatever they think. But yeah, then there's the Pentatonix fans who would be
Yeah,
like, oh no, this is not what I want from Mitch. So
right.
you had to straddle both of those concerns.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I didn't want to alienate anyone, but I wanted to make a clear statement that I'm going to do what I want to do creatively. Um, and at the same time, it's important not to alienate and not to kick anybody out of the group because they don't understand it necessarily. Um, and at the end of the day, I just want my music to be enjoyed. And I've never been, I think even in the context of Pentatonix, I've never been like the clean cut, normal member of the band. I think people expect surprises from me because that's just, I'm always staying true to myself. So I just do the things that I feel, look, sound, feel good. And I think a lot of the Pentatonix fans were like, okay, this kind of makes sense. Like he's doing something a little bit off kilter, a little unusual with his music. But this current record I think is a little more digestible. And it's funny because it feels much more authentic to me than the previous record.
How so?
With the previous record, I find that I was trying to box it in and I was trying to make it this 80s inspired dark wave synth pop um, record because that's what I was listening to at the time. And with this music with cuts I wanted to make music that came naturally to me, that I wasn't trying to force a genre upon. And that's what you hear in Not Yet. That one, I love that song. I'm so proud of that song. I think it's my favorite off of the record. That one was just, I wasn't trying to make it any sort of genre. I wasn't trying to, you know, copy any sound or anything like that. It's just the sound that came out of me naturally. And I think the rest of them are too. And it's hard to pin any sort of genre onto the rest of the songs on cuts.
So, as I mentioned, I've heard in Messer's music, Electro Clash. I've
Hmm.
also heard some hyper pop stuff,
Hmm.
some definitely some 80s influences and 90s influences. But, you talked about you were sort of listening to 80s dark wavy stuff for Roses.
Yeah.
What were you listening to anything during the making of Cuts that kind of pushed the sound in the direction that Messer has gone into?
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big fan of Imogen Heap and especially the Frou Frou era. I draw a lot of influence from her. I always have since I was a teenager. Madonna, because I feel that she's always, genre bending and genre defying. Royksop, I really am a big fan of. And then I really got into video game soundtracks,
Oh,
specifically Akira Yamaoka, who does
okay.
Silent Hill. And I was really inspired by just kind of like the PlayStation 2 of it all. Because I feel like the liquid drum and bass sound is really, it was popular at that time. And I was just finding a lot of that online. And uh, yeah, it just really puts me in a particular state that influenced the music a lot.
You mentioned how even within the Pentatonix ranks, you're known as sort of the outlier or the, I don't know if you said the weird one or whatever. I
Hmm.
don't know if that's actually what you said, but the
Something
weird
along
one.
those lines.
Something
Yeah.
along those lines. And you're quite the fashionista. Like if I look at old footage of Pentatonix, like either from obviously the Sing Off, which interestingly a lot of people don't even know you from that show. No
Hmm.
Pentatonix from that show. But if I
Yeah.
look at that era and the first EP or album that came out in the early 2010s,
Hmm.
you look very different.
Hmm.
And over the years you've looked very different. You have a really Aren't you like a Balenciaga muse or something? Like, I want to hear about your fashion evolution because, like,
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
I don't know if I'm a Balenciaga muse, but I
Okay.
I definitely since Demna joined the team and he's about to leave actually. He
Oh,
just did his final collection, his final couture collection for Balenciaga. But always been a big fan of his and of his time at Balenciaga. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's tough because I find as the years have gone on, I'm really just more of a fan of simplicity and of creating beautiful shapes with the clothes that I wear on my body and not necessarily all about making a statement anymore. I feel like when I was younger, it was more about the fashion statements and what I can wear that's unusual and how I can stand out and how I can wear things that nobody else has worn. Um, but I think as I get older, I find that comfort is really important and shape. And so I really appreciate good suiting. And I'm a big fan of what Anthony Vaccarello is doing at Saint Laurent right now. Um, but the fashion landscape it's interesting because I don't find that a lot of it is no shade. I find that a lot of it is not super original, which I
hmm.
guess could be said about a lot of artistic mediums, is that, there's really nothing that's original anymore. So I think going back to basics with fashion is where I'm at right now, and it feels the least cringe on my body,
I,
specifically.
I like that quote. Have you forgive me if you have and I didn't know, but have you ever done fashion, meaning like designed, or have you like designed clothes or had a capsule
Oh,
collection or anything, or do you want to do that?
I would love to do that. I would love to do that. I love what the Olsen twins are doing with the row. I'm a big fan of the row too. And that's
Sure.
exactly what I'm talking about. It's the simplicity and it's all about, beautiful shapes and tailoring and just making a perfect garment. And that is really inspiring to me. So I don't think I would do anything extravagant necessarily. Um, but it's all about, highlighting the body in really beautiful ways.
So I've been reading the book that Connie Hoyne wrote about Scott,
Hmm.
your Pentatonix bandmate and Superfruit bandmate. And
Hmm.
the journey, you're obviously mentioned a lot in the book. And I'm wondering, since we're talking about the fashion thing, when you kind of lean more into like the super flamboyant, over the top stuff that you sort of aren't doing now, but was that in any way kind of a reaction to your conservative upbringing, like, this idea like, well,
Hmm.
now I'm just gonna go crazy,
Yeah.
now I'm gonna wear whatever I want. I'm gonna wear heels this high or makeup
Yeah.
or whatever, was there any connection there?
It's a good question. I think I'm sure it was a reaction to my upbringing because I always had an interest in fashion when I was a kid and a teenager and always wanted to wear flamboyant, extravagant clothing and never really got the opportunity, didn't really have the money. So as I got a little bit older, earned a little bit of money and lost a little bit of weight, I was like, oh, I can fit into these beautiful clothes that I appreciate. I'm just gonna go all in and experiment with things and see where it takes me. And I think that's a very Mitch thing to do is getting obsessed with one particular thing and taking it to the extreme. And I think that's a great example.
Is that way of approaching life apply to Messer as well? Like the obsessiveness can be a good thing in art, like because
Yeah.
you're like laser focused on what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And I have a tendency to really be distracted easily too. So I think it helps me to really choose something to work off of, a jumping off point.
I imagine that during you mentioned that it sort of initially was a pandemic project.
Yeah. Mhm.
Was something that obviously must have kept it was good to have something to obsess over and be focused on at
Oh
that time.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. That was a very strange time. And I can't believe it was 5 years ago already.
I know. Is that why you would say, this is my impression, like the Cuts EP is not as dark as the Roses EP, both sonically and definitely visually. So is that because Cuts was made as we were coming out of that time?
Good question. Potentially. I was finding my way musically and creatively, and I was on a journey with these collaborators that really brought out the best in me, and I think I was just enjoying it. And then, along the way, making this record, I fell in love, and that was really exciting, and
Oh,
uh, changed my perspective kind of in every way, and I think added a lightness and also a little bit of a lot. I would say a lot of, vulnerability and insecurity and some fear, but, mostly excitement, happiness.
well, I can tell you're glowing. So
Oh, thanks.
congratulations on that. Who
Thank you.
are you in love with, and how long has this relationship been going on?
My partner, his name is Will, and we met in Germany. We met on tour while I was touring with Pentatonix. We had a show in Berlin. We met there, and we just celebrated our 2-year anniversary yesterday.
Congrats. So
Yeah, thanks.
is he German?
He's German. Hmm.
Oh. Berlin seems very Mitch because it's a glamorous and sophisticated and fashionable city from what I've
Yeah,
never been there, but I've always
it
wanted to
is.
go.
It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible. I mean, it does kind of have like a Los Angeles laid backness to it, but
Okay.
in my eyes, there seems to be like a lot more happening. There's always something happening at all hours of the day and night, and I really like it too. Akin to Los Angeles, it has many different sort of boroughs of the city. It's a huge place, but you can really find your niche, I think, in Berlin.
So yeah, I mean, Bowie recorded some of his famously recorded his trilogy there. So are you and Will, was it a long distance thing, or do you live in Berlin now? Did he move here? How did that work?
It was long distance at first, yeah, and then I was like, you know what? Let's just see what it's like living over there in Berlin for a little bit. So,
Oh.
I went over there top of last year, and then we got a place there, and now we're kind of I don't even know if you would call it bi-coastal, but we're LA and Berlin. We go back and forth, so I'm half and half now.
Did you record any or all of the Cuts EP in Berlin?
Um. I no, actually. No, I
Okay.
recorded I recorded the songs here or on the
Okay.
road.
Okay. How, well, to go back to, you said how that falling in love informed the record.
Hmm.
There's definitely, I mean, not yet. Lyrically, it seems like there are love songs on this record besides the comparative lightness of it.
Hmm.
I'm curious about how being in love I'm curious to hear more about how your relationship affected the sound of Messer.
Yeah, yeah. Not Yet is a great example. That is kind of like the long distance anthem to me. I wrote that when, we were getting really serious and I was on the road and it was really hard to find times to talk to him and I was busy. And I was just like, oh, it's great, but it's also torturous because you want to be 24/7 talking to the person that you're so in love with.
Hmm.
And it's basically just, you're just killing time. It's just a waiting game until the next time you can see them. I'm sure people in long distance relationships can relate to that.
Absolutely. I've read that in general, the Messer project has pulled inspiration from your conservative upbringing in Texas. I think we may have talked about
Hmm.
this last time I talked with you. I'm not sure if that's true, but like, does it? I guess is what I'm asking. Like,
Hmm.
because I mean, it's kind of funny to be like, would you ever have thought growing up in Arlington? You grew up in Arlington?
Yeah. Hmm.
Arlington, Texas, that you'd be like bi-coastal, living in Berlin half the time, and like it's funny how where life can take you, you know.
Yeah. No, no way. I never thought that. I never thought I would live in Europe at all. And life takes you to some crazy places sometimes, but I think art, I mean, in my case anyway, is definitely a direct result of my upbringing and, my childhood and the experiences I've been through, beautiful or traumatic. I think it's all a result of that, and it's my way of processing the things that I've seen and been through, and it's my way of turning them into something beautiful that people can relate to or just simply enjoy.
What was it like growing up in Arlington? Obviously, I know you had the support system of your glee club or your choir or the
Hmm.
theater and those kind of things you were doing, which I think is so important for all kids, especially queer kids or kids that feel weird or different.
Yeah.
But what in general was it? You said traumatic, so I actually don't know much about
Hmm.
what it was like for you to grow up there.
You know, it wasn't the worst thing in the world. There were some hard moments, but I think it was kind of like a slow burn damage to the identity because it's in places like that, no hate to Arlington. It raised me, but in places like that, especially in America, it can be very black and white. Men are like this, women are like this. There's no gray area at all. There's no nuance. And so because I wasn't black or white, on that scale, I felt very alienated and I was questioning my identity a lot. And I think for a long time I was kind of telling myself like, oh, you're not a real man if you don't do these things and you don't have any semblance of masculinity because you didn't live up to this particular uh, mold of what a man should be in today's society. So that I think has affected a lot of the choices I've made in life, specifically creatively too. And it's led me to rebel a lot, which I think is a blessing in disguise because it led me to explore a lot of facets of my identity that maybe I wouldn't have explored had I not been, conditioned in that way.
Were you what at what age did you come out, or at least come out, to family and friends? I feel like you were out the entire time that Pentatonix have been in the public eye.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I came out to friends when I was 15 and then my parents and my family when I was 16.
I mean, if it's traumatic to talk with you, we about it, we don't have to, but was it because like I said, I've been reading Scott's book and yeah, was it a positive experience or like overall, or was it a not positive experience?
It was positive. I mean,
Good.
there was like little to no backlash, I would say. I think, people were kind of like, oh yeah, well, okay. Um, and and it afforded me sort of the upper hand to when, any bullies or naysayers wanted to say something or they wanted to call me gay, I would just be like, well, yeah, true. Yes. What
And
else? And
yes, and
yes, and
that's good. I mean, were you bullied a lot? Or at one time, obviously, I'm talking like a long time ago.
it wasn't a lot,
Good.
but the moments that it did happen, uh, they stick with you. You remember those moments and they cut really deep. Um, so it wasn't necessarily frequent, but it definitely affected me a lot. Kids don't really realize the weight of their words, I think.
Yeah. Is that the reason or one of the reasons why you gravitated towards the a cappella theater, kid, glee club, whatever, that kind of world?
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I loved the arts and I loved music, and I naturally gravitate toward people that shared the same interests. But that was also, that was the part of the student body that was the most open, the most accepting, and the most fun. So yeah.
So you mentioned, if I remember exactly what you said, that because of all these things that you went through, the good and the bad and the traumatic and everything in between, that was something that you were later able to explore in your music. So
Mhm.
what on the Cuts EP have you explored that you haven't previously explored, or at least not previously explored, like in depth?
Yeah.
Like what was, yeah, what, it's a lot to unpack. I guess it's a big question, but like what were
Mhm.
you exploring on this record?
Mm, that's a thinker. Um, well, I think, when you when you fall in love and you have such deep feelings for somebody else and you want to bring your best to the table in a relationship, you start to really think about yourself a lot and you think about your flaws and the things you need to work on and the things you haven't faced yet. And that definitely happened to me. When people ask me this question, I always say I delved a lot into shadow work
Hmm.
and turned toward the darker parts of myself that I was too afraid to touch, until I really had to. And so there is a lot of that vulnerability and the questioning if I have worth in a relationship, if I'm lovable, if people can deal with me. And what else? What I love about this record though is that it does delve into those sort of, those worries, the fears of rejection or abandonment, but then at the end of the record, uh, and it's a message of hope, and you can kind of feel all these negative fearful feelings melting away, and what you're left with is, well, I'm still here, I'm still alive, things are not so bad, things are actually really great. I'm in a beautiful relationship, I have a great life, and there are some really positive things to focus on, and you can overcome it.
Awesome. What is shadow? I've heard the term shadow work. In fact,
Mhm.
I just did an interview recently with someone else who said they had been doing shadow work, but then
Oh, really?
he said Google it, which
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry I haven't, I didn't do. He
No
was
worries.
telling like people like, well, he was telling the people like, watching the interview, like Google it, I guess because he just didn't want to, go too far on that tangent. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not really super familiar, but like you're the second time in the last month I've talked to someone who mentioned that. So what
that
is
is
shadow work?
interesting. Well, I'm not a scholar on it, but it's a Jungian concept, I believe. And it's basically it's just delving a little deeper and investigating the darker parts of yourself, the parts of yourself that you don't show to anyone and you don't even show to yourself, that you can't face um, for a long time. And it's really scary. I mean, it, it's the parts of yourself that affect your day-to-day life, and you don't want to admit to yourself that they do, if that makes sense. Um, and so it's kind of a loss of identity for a little bit. It's a bit of an ego death. Um, but once you realize that it's very human feelings to feel these things, it starts to feel smaller and smaller. And the more you incorporate and shake hands with the darker part of yourself, in your day-to-day life, I think the more you understand yourself and the more you understand the world around you, in my opinion, anyway.
Wow. Yeah, wow, that's pretty amazing. I mean, maybe I'm taking what you said too literally, but when you
Mhm.
say like embracing the darker part of yourself or getting rid of one identity,
Mhm.
like in the literal sense, that seems like what you've done with Messer. It's a different name.
Yeah,
Sometimes you look a little different, definitely sound different, and it is darker than what you're known for. So am I
yeah.
making the right, am I interpreting the connection there right?
That's a really interesting take. And you could be onto something there because it did start off a little bit darker aesthetically and musically. And yeah, it almost feels kind of like the rebellious teenage son of the household that's like, F you, I'm gonna figure out, I'm gonna figure myself out. And once you do that, the veil kind of lifts and you feel a certain lightness. And I kind of think that's what Cuts is.
Awesome. Well, obviously you're primarily known for doing a cappella music where,
Mhm.
like you said, your voice is right there. And this is not, it's quite the opposite of that.
Mhm.
So in what ways, obviously you were able to stretch yourself creatively in many ways, but in what ways were you able to tap into your vocal instrument in ways with Messer that you
Mm.
can't or it just wouldn't be appropriate to do with Pentatonix?
Mm. You know, what I've noticed is that there's no pressure to meet any sort of deadline necessarily or uh, compromise in any way. And I mean that in the best way possible. I understand that, in a group you have to make compromises. But with Messer, I can take as long as I want and I can be as tedious as I want with the vocals and tweak until I am blue in the face. And I think that's how I've discovered what I do best, vocally especially.
What is what you do best vocally? I mean, your range is crazy. I actually read
Oh,
in
thanks.
when I was reading Connie Hoyne's book, it described you as a tenor.
Hmm.
Like, okay, I'm not a singer. Tenor's like a deep voice, right?
Tenor's
Because
the
I think
high
of okay,
high male voice.
but I think of you as, and again, I'm dumb. I don't know. I'm not a singer. That's why I interview singers instead of singing. No one wants to hear me sing, except maybe a karaoke. But I think of you as having a high voice, which I guess me
Yes.
not knowing the technical terms, I would think of as like a male soprano. Like I don't know. I would think of you as a high. Your high notes cut through pentatonics so
Yeah.
much.
Oh, thanks.
So
I think it's tough. I think you would call it a countertenor, maybe.
okay.
Some people call it an Irish tenor. I think it just means like a man with a high voice.
Okay. All right. So I wasn't totally wrong, or I was, but you've clarified that. So yeah, what do you do best vocally that you have realized from doing Messer? Because you said you realize what you do best or whatever.
Yeah, I think I've just tapped into more of the storytelling aspect of my voice and um, utilizing a little bit more dynamics and it's hard to describe, but I can just place my voice in a really pleasurable part of my throat that I feel like it's just kind of like when I sing in that part of my voice, I'm like, okay, there it is. This is how I was meant to sing. And I feel like I've always been looking for that because
Huh.
like as I said, it's always been, extremes with me. When I was in musical theater, my voice was very musical theater. When I was studying classical music, very classical. Pentatonics, it was very pentatonics. But now, it's like, okay, well, this is my own thing. How do I sing? I have no example to go off of. So I think I finally kind of settled into it.
That's awesome. So what is the future for Messer? Because my impression, maybe I'm wrong, was because of the way it started in lockdown. There's been two EPs that were, spaced a few years apart, that
Mhm.
maybe it wasn't something, it was a side project or
Mhm.
not a hobby, but something you were doing aside from your day job, your main gig. So,
Yeah,
but now
passion
it feels
project.
passion project, that's the word I
Yeah.
need. But now it seems to really kind of be, you're performing, you're doing shows, I'm going to go see you play. Like, is this going to be something you keep doing and focus more and more of your time on? Will there
Mhm.
be like a full album, a full tour? Like, what's the future of Messer, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, technically Cuts is an album. It's just a short one.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I thought it was an EP. How many
oh, that's
tracks are
okay.
on it? How many tracks are on
7.
it? Okay. Well,
So it's
what I
kind of
mean, nowadays, like, I don't even know. I mean, there are people who put out albums that have like 36 tracks on them, and then there's people who
totally.
put out EPs that have like four. So I don't know. So
Yeah.
it's an album. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. It's all good. No, I understand why you would think that because it's very short. Um, I I'm I just love performing my music. There is really nothing like it. And so there'll definitely be more music, more performances. I want to grow this fan base together with the fans. And I just want to try everything out musically that I can and really push my voice to the limit in a healthy way. It's really, really rewarding for me spiritually. So it's not going anywhere.
Awesome. What's the live I mean, I guess I'll find out firsthand pretty soon, but what's the live presentation like? Or is it just you alone with like, a drum machine or tracks, or do you have a band? Is there theatricality? Is there production? I
Um,
mean, I want it all.
yeah, of course. Um, for these two shows, it's going to be really simple. It's me, microphone, and music, and that's it, and a beautiful light show.
Awesome. Do you have a pie in the sky, like kind of Lady Gaga-esque vision for what Messer would be if you did like a full tour with a budget and all
Oh my
that?
gosh. Yeah,
Costume?
I mean, I've always dreamed of having uh, people flanking me to my sides and being on drum machines or synthesizers and having it be very craft work.
Oh yeah, that
You
has
get
to
it.
happen. Yeah, I
You
mean,
get it.
yeah, yeah, I totally get it. I mean, I was obviously a fan of what you do with Pentatonix, but yeah, this is very much in my wheelhouse. So I'm so stoked there's new music and I'm stoked to see you and
Thank you.
congratulations on everything. Before I let you go, since I was asking about, what's next for Messer, I guess I'd be remiss to not ask about what's next for Pentatonix as
Yeah.
well. Um,
Yeah. I don't know how much I can say, but we're working on a new record right now. And I'm gonna be doing re-records tomorrow. We all are. And I think it'll be wrapped up really soon. And you'll get to hear a new album soon.
is it going to be originals? Because you famously made history as like, I think the first a cappella, well, it was the first a cappella group to ever go to number one, but it was with an album of
Huh.
originals.
Huh?
Um,
Yep, exactly. Yeah. It is largely originals. Yeah.
awesome. That's
Yes.
exciting. The last thing I'll ask, just to tie it all together, was a lot of people, obviously I know you from the sing off, but a lot of people knew Pentatonix because of the Daft Punk remix, which I won you your first Grammy, or not remix, but your medley of Daft Punk.
Mhm.
Is there any connection to that? That like it's kind of interesting to me that Pentatonix kind of hit the mainstream YouTube world, covering like a very iconic French electronic band,
Mhm.
which I imagine Daft Punk has some kind of influence on what you do with Messer. Is there?
Oh yeah.
I feel like there's some kind of full circleness to that.
Oh, totally, totally. Yeah. I mean, well, the Daft Punk thing started actually with Scott and I in high school.
Oh
I was
wow.
obsessed with Daft Punk, and I think I showed him the song "Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger." And I think we made like silly little lip syncing videos to it, and then that obsession carried on through the sing off, and yeah, it's funny how those things work out, huh?
Yeah. Well, they sadly broke up, but if you ever do
I
your
know.
like flanked synthesizer vision that you have, just like put Daft Punk robot helmets on those two people. No one will
Can you
know.
imagine? That's true. Yeah. And if I get sued, who cares?
Who cares? You're a rebel.
Exactly.
Well, congratulations on everything you got going, Mitch. I'm very
Thanks,
excited
Lindsay.
for you and for this project and anything else you do with Messer and for the new Pentatonix record. So
Thank you.
we'll hopefully chat soon.
Yes, thank you so much.